exciting announcement. We're going to be doing a live webinar today at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time with America's newspapers. This event is also brought to you by the Iowa Newspaper Association and their online media campus. We've done a couple webinars for this group, and I'm really excited about this one. We're going to be talking about automated podcasting with audio articles. This is one of our newest features. It's a breakthrough technology. We're really excited about it. It's a way to automatically turn all your text articles on the website into audio, so you can basically turn your newspaper into a podcast in a completely automated way. As they say in this article, it's a way to transform your newspaper into a podcast and expand your brand. So if you're interested, please register now. You can go to newspapers.org and go to the meetings and webinars. It's right under here as an upcoming event. And you can register down here at the bottom. But what I want to do today is give you a sneak peek of the event. We're going to be replaying the webinar that we did last week for the Illinois Press Association on the same topic. So check it out here. That's what we're going to be showing for the next 30 minutes or so. We'll be live streaming that. Please leave your comments on the video. I'd love to see your feedback, and we can feature some of those in the live stream as we go. So I hope you enjoy the video on automated podcasting.
Welcome to Illinois Press Foundation Education Series, Audio Podcasting with Audio Articles. In this webinar, Matt Larson, President and CEO of our Hometown Inc., is going to present several case studies from publishers that are using audio articles to transform their newspaper into a podcast. During the session, you could ask questions in the chat. This webinar is being recorded and will be on illinoispress.org under events for you to share with your team. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I appreciate the introduction. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Start the presentation here. I got some slides for you all today. And again, just to reiterate, my name is Matt Larson. I'm the president and CEO of Our Hometown. We work with local newspapers all over the country. I'll get a little bit more into our background in a minute. But today's session, it'll be pretty short and sweet. It should be under 30 minutes. We're going to talk about automated podcasting. I kind of changed the title a little bit there. Automated podcasting, because we're focused on automation in any way that we can with our customers, just because there's so much that you're expected to do nowadays with such little resources. You've got to automate whenever possible. And so if we're good on the audio and you guys can see my screen, then I'm going to go ahead and move forward. I think we have someone commenting in the chat. Okay, good. So let me just get my chat window up here too. And there's also a Q&A area. So if you have any questions as we go through, please drop it in there. Just some quick background on Our Hometown, about us. We manage hundreds of weekly newspaper websites, mostly weeklies, a couple dailies, but we're really focused on the weekly newspaper and helping them get their content online in the most efficient way possible. We also host native apps for them, and we work with papers all across North America. And our platform is based on WordPress, which is an open source content management system that we have customized for newspaper publishers. So if you know anything about WordPress, you know it can be DIY. You can download your own WordPress site and create a blog with it. But then you've got to find all the plugins and make them work together and keep them updated. So our main value proposition is that we're software as a service. And so we just handle all the technical stuff for you. We're kind of like a remote IT team in that way. We're a family business. The company was founded by my father in upstate New York in 1997. And our number one priority has always been customer support. We work with, again, hundreds of newspapers, and we're actually producing the website for many of these papers on a weekly basis. They just send us their print PDF, and we extract all the articles and even the print ads and put them all up in HTML on the website. So, we're very involved with the production of our customers' websites. And so we're really tuned into the customer support aspect of that. We're not just, a developer that gives you a website and then sends you on your way. But along with that, because we're software as a service, it's a constantly evolving platform. And the features we're going to talk about today are some of the newest features that we've developed having to do with audio podcasting. And so this feature set is constantly evolving based on publisher feedback. So any feedback that you have for me today on these features, I would really appreciate. We're always looking for new ideas to improve the platform and the features on it. So, it's not like something that's set in stone, and that kind of goes along with the fact that we're on WordPress. It's very easy to modify things. Okay, so really, I think we could definitely keep this under 30 minutes, but depending on the questions, it might go a little bit over. In this session, we're going to talk about why you should consider getting into podcasting. I would think everyone that's here has their own reasons and has their own interests, but I'm going to talk about some of the numbers that are driving this, like the current audience in the US that is listening to podcasts on a regular basis, some of the advertising trends that we're seeing, how the money is moving into this space from other areas like radio. And I also want to address some of the barriers to entry and the issues that we see with production. Because if you've tried to start a podcast on your own, you've probably encountered these things. And so I just want to address how we handle these problems that you might have encountered. And that's going to be mainly through the automation of the production of the podcast. And we do that through a tool that we call audio articles. And it automatically will generate a podcast from your newspaper is the bottom line. But I'll walk you through how all that works. And again, just a reminder to locate the Q&A box or the chat. I'll be monitoring both. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in there. And just to kind of get some engagement right up front here, if you all could find, let's just say the Q&A area, let's stick to that. If you could type your name, the paper you're with, and whether you've tried creating an audio podcast or what you might have done until this point with audio, I'd be really interested to know that. It'll help me kind of, focus the conversation a little bit. Okay, so just drop those in there at any time. But the first thing I just want to demonstrate is the opportunity here. The audio market continues to grow. It's been growing for years, but last year it saw more growth than we've seen in a long time. I'm just going to bring up all of this information so that I have my sources here. A recent study from Edison Research says that 60% of the US population listens to online audio each week. So this could be either a podcast or maybe a digital stream from a radio channel, NPR or something. You go to the website to listen to the audio. And 60% of the US is doing that every week. And I find that stat interesting because it's kind of in line with the publication frequency of our customers being mostly weekly print newspapers. So the audience, you have a weekly audience as a print newspaper, so does the online audio, but it's 60% of the whole population. Thank you, Pamela. I appreciate that information there. Steady growth despite lost commute times. So this year we had this shutdown and things haven't quite gotten back to normal yet. There's been a decrease in commute times for many people, but despite that, we've seen a 28% increase in listening between January 2020 and April 2020. And then that continued to increase through September by 51% since January 2020. So there's steady increase. That was the most significant increase we've seen in years. And that just happened in part of 2020. And the coolest thing is that the news genre has had the highest impressions. So that's the opportunity that we see here. All these stats are from the AdsWiz podcast trends report. And if you're interested in this, just drop your email in the chat and I'll copy it and send you those reports if you want to read more details on it. And thank you everyone for dropping in this information. I'm taking a look now. Looks like some people have tried podcasting, have had some ideas for it, but haven't really had one that they produce sustainably. So that's what I'm going to focus on, is how to do this in a sustainable way. Okay, I also want to address the advertiser perspective here and how the money is moving into podcasts. It actually represents 19% of digital audio buys today. And since COVID, 64% of advertisers are spending more or the same in podcasts. And I think we can all appreciate that fact, that we're not losing money in this space. It's staying steady or increasing, which is much more than we can say for any other area of digital advertising, which of course, all that money, well, not all of it, but the lion's share is going to Google and Facebook now, and the new advertising dollars is increasingly going to that space. So for display advertising and traditional advertising, there's those issues, but with audio, it's increasing, which I think is very exciting. 78% of respondents, these respondents are podcast hosts. They currently monetize their podcast content, and 50% of them are doing that through sponsorships and or host read ads. And again, this is from the AdsWiz podcast report. So, a lot of this is happening at the most popular podcasts, like you hear about the ones like the Conan O'Brien podcast or Joe Rogan and all these really, popular ones. But I think it's indicative of what's coming, and we can capture some of that revenue even as a local publisher. But the key is that you got to produce this consistently. So the issue there, and these are the problems that a lot of people encounter, or maybe they don't even encounter because they just think about what it's going to take to do this, and they just don't even attempt it, because audio content is expensive to produce, both in terms of the money that you need to invest into the equipment or the software, but also just the time that you need to put into creating it. If you're doing it yourself, that's time that you could be spending on other things. It also requires a good amount of experience with audio recording and editing. So, I mean, these are all the things that kind of scare people away. And I think the biggest problem is, if you could jump into this and just plug in a programmatic audio ad network and start making money from day one, that would be one thing. But those ad networks don't really exist yet. And the problem here, if you're going to try to sell a sponsorship, you're going to need an audience that's large enough to monetize and to make it basically worth your while. So those are some of the issues that, I think a lot of publishers have with getting into it. So the solution, as far as we see it, is to automate the vast majority of the audio production with a tool called Audio Articles. And right now, what I'm going to describe, this tool is only what we're going to talk about on this slide is only available on the Our Hometown platform, but we can do a part of this on any CMS. So even with your current website, we can do the podcast, but I'll talk about that in more detail in a minute. Let me just describe the whole system. So it all starts on the website when we automatically convert every text article that's published on the web into a mini podcast. And this exists on the article level. So you're looking at an article, it's got a little player at the top. You can hit play and listen to that one story. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute. The way that these publishers are monetizing this is through audio ads, which basically take copy that you type into the dashboard of the website. You don't have to manually record these ads or have your advertiser record them. You can just type in their message, and these audio ads will automatically be inserted at the beginning of every audio article that's generated on the website. So, the advertiser is going to get a lot of exposure that way. Then the automated podcasting, this is the part that we can do as a third party, not without managing your entire website. These individual audio articles, this is the big breakthrough that we've had this year, because audio articles that exist on the story level, we've had that feature for about a year, but it's one article at a time. You hit play, the article plays, and then it just stops. But I think the big breakthrough that we had this year was the technology came. We basically built the tool to organize multiple audio articles into a playlist. Once you have a playlist, you can really just hit play and just go on a hike, or start exercising, cooking dinner, or start driving your car and listen to it one episode after another. So you can truly listen to the newspaper in one shot like that. And once we have a playlist, we can embed the playlist on a website and then syndicate those episodes across the most popular podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And the way that you can also monetize a playlist that's different from just the individual audio articles is by just simply writing a sponsored content article on your website that will get converted to audio, just like all the editorial content, and then it will appear in sequence with the audio articles. So then your advertiser can have a more long form ad basically as part of your podcast. And so I'll show you what I mean in a minute when we look at these examples, the difference between the audio articles on the article level and the podcast. So automated audio content, this was a topic that we talked about recently in a podcast interview we did with editor and publisher. You can watch the full interview on our website, ourhometown.com/virtual conferences. And in this interview, we discussed 2 case studies, some of the most interesting applications of this technology. One is from signalsaz.com. Guy Rodgensen, the executive editor there, he's really been a leader in this space, really a true innovator, and just helping us develop the technology. He was the first to adapt audio articles on his website and monetize the feature with an audio ad. And I'll show you an example of that in just a minute, but I just want to get all these examples out here first. Kristen Weaver was the other participant in this interview. She's the director of operations at wilsoncountynews.com, which is a weekly print newspaper that we manage the website for. She has done something very creative. She hosts a weekly Facebook Live show in the office, sets up a camera kind of in the break room, and films local businesses being interviewed by her staff. And so that's one product that she can sell a banner ad. She can actually display a banner ad at the bottom of the Facebook Live video. And so the advertiser will get that as part of the package, as well as the audio ads. So they're appearing in all these multimedia formats, really cutting edge. They stand out above, all the other advertisers when they're doing this, that are just, running display ads. And she was the first to automatically create a podcast of her newspaper from all these audio articles that we're creating. And she feeds those into Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So let me exit that so I can look at some of these examples. I think I've actually got them. Oh, no, not there. Let's look at this article here. This is from signalsaz.com. They do these This Day in Histories every day. And this is what it looks like. So this is what I was describing earlier. Hopefully it makes more sense now that you can see this. This is the article, and we have a player at the top, and this will just play this one story. So I'm going to show you what that sounds like in a minute. Hopefully you'll all be able to hear that. And we've got a little text article here. This is the audio ad that will be read in the first 5 seconds of the audio article, and you'll see that in a second. Then we've also got a banner ad that links through to the sponsor's website. So I'm just going to hit play and kind of explain what's happening as it goes by. Here we go.
Audible stories made possible by the Prescott Hearing Center. Get your free hearing test today.
Okay, so again, just a really quick plug for this advertiser. If I could just get a quick chat here from Sandy or Cindy, if you could just let me know, make sure that you could hear that. I believe I shared the audio correctly, but that will appear at the beginning of every audio article on the website, so that it's plenty of exposure for that advertiser. Now, as I continue to play this, you'll see it's just going to read the article. There's an option to have it read the headline first, but this publisher just wants to skip right to the article. So you'll see how that sounds.
It was just 80 years ago today, March 17, 1941, when then President Roosevelt announced to the world that the newest construction of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., was completed. In reality, the idea had been a long one in waiting, and had actually been approved by Congress and established in 1937. However, the National Gallery of Art is now considered to be one of the greatest museums in the world, and one of the largest marble buildings.
Okay, so that's what it sounds like, and sounds incredibly realistic, but I don't know if I made this point clear earlier. This is not a service that's doing it. So it's automated in the way that it's actually a computer that's reading that story. So it's incredibly scalable and very affordable, much more affordable than any of the transcription services you might see out there, where it's a person that you're paying to read your article and record it. So that can be totally automated, and you can choose from a number of different voices, male, female, different accents, things like that. And that's what we have on the article level. So let me know if you have any questions on that, but should be pretty straightforward with how that works on our customer websites. Now let's go to the home page. This is something that we can do as a third party. This is the playlist that I was talking about over on the right. So this is going to allow the user to hit play once and listen to multiple stories back to back. And it's basically going to automatically publish, as you publish stories on the website, it's going to instantly turn it into an audio article and feed it into this podcast playlist. So it sounds exactly the same. We don't really need to listen to an example, but I'll just show you this really quick.
Audible stories made possible by the Prescott Hearing Center. Get your free hearing test today. Prescott Valley's newest publication, the official Prescott Valley Community Services Recreation Guide, will be landing in town June 2021.
So that's pretty much all there is to that. And now the next thing that I want to show you is how this same playlist can be syndicated to the podcast apps, because that's how you're going to grow your audience. It's one thing to have this as a feature on your website for your current audience and your current subscribers. I mean, that's fantastic, but what we're really excited about is to actually grow the audience and get in front of people that just prefer to get their news or their information through audio. And so they're really heavy podcast subscribers. They're subscribed to dozens of different shows, and we can get in front of them through these podcast apps. So let's take a look at these examples. We've got one. This is from the Wilson County News. We've got one let's see, I'm going to cancel that. This is the Spotify channel. And so if you subscribe to any shows on Spotify, you know that you would follow this show, and then you would get updates and notifications when new episodes are published. And again, just like that playlist that's on the homepage of Signals, you can play one episode, and each episode's like a minute or 2 minutes. Most of them are under 5 minutes. So it's bite size. We're not talking hours, hour-long episodes like some of the most popular podcasts out there. This is something that you can just dip into. You can find a headline that's of interest and just listen to that story. But the cool thing is, if I did hit play, it would play this article and then automatically go from one episode to the next. So it's like reading a newspaper front to back or listening to one. So let me give you an example of this, because they actually use a female voice for this one.
Audio articles on Wilson County News made possible by Witt's Barbecue Steaks and Catering in La Vernia. Register March 17th for March 18th Wilson County COVID Vaccine Clinic in Floresville.
Okay, so
registration opens with.
Sorry, I meant to pause that. You see that we had a different audio ad at the beginning there for this newspaper sponsor. We had the female voice, and this one read the headline first, and then it goes on to read the story. And I also just want to point out that she's syndicating this to Apple Podcasts as well. So, you're not going to normally subscribe to a podcast on your desktop, but this is basically how it would look when you go into the podcast app. You can subscribe to the show, and then you would get notified when new episodes are published. So bottom line is, it's just another way to get your content and your brand in front of your audience for again, just people that prefer to listen rather than, read the news. Okay, now let's switch over to the third-party integration. This is an exciting area. We've got a lot of publishers that have taken us up on this, and this works with any CMS. So you don't have to switch to Our Hometown to have a podcast, is the bottom line. It's a 3-step process. If you can just provide us an RSS feed, then we can make this work on your website. And it's very simple. Step 1, you publish the article on your current website. Step 2, Our Hometown will receive that content through the RSS feed that you provided, and we convert it to an audio article on our system. And we're actually technically setting up a demo site for you on our side that is, not publicly accessible at all, but that's how we technically do this. So we would be creating the audio articles on our system, and then we can feed them to that playlist that you can embed on your homepage, or we can also feed them to all the podcast apps, just as we saw with Wilson County. And we still have a free trial going for this until the end of March. So let me go ahead and open this up for you. I just want to drop it into I'll put it in the chat. Oh, good. Thank you, Sandy. We have a question on, can we get stats on how many people listen to audio? Yes, absolutely. That's key. You can, if you're on our platform and using our WordPress websites, then we can measure the number of plays on every single article. And you can also get a report on the number of subscribers. If you're feeding them to the podcast apps, then you can get a report on the number of subscribers you have tuned into your channel, and also the number of plays on each episode on the podcast apps. They're actually called downloads. So anytime someone hits play, it counts as a download of the whole episode. Okay, but a little bit of a teaser here. We're actually looking to rebuild this player, and we're gonna be able to get a lot more detail out of it, like exactly how long people listened, when people were tuning out, stuff like that. We'll be able to also create more personalized playlists so that, we can look at what is the article that you're reading now, what is the content of that article. We're going to recommend another podcast episode and another article that you might be interested in based on the content of the current story. So that's a little bit of a teaser for some features that are kind of top secret right now. To be honest, they're coming out at the end of April. Okay, so, but anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent there. The point is that if you're at all interested in this, we'd love to give you a sample, and you can see, you actually turn your newspaper into a podcast. We have a quick question on pricing, so I can talk about that here. Well, I'm not going to bring up the page. Basically, there's 2 pricing models. If you're an Our Hometown customer and you want to add on audio articles and the podcast, it's $75 a month for that add-on. If you want to just do the podcast and not switch to Our Hometown and just do it through this RSS feed, it's $99 a month. And that includes up to 2 million characters transcribed, which is more than enough for any weekly newspaper. But if you're a daily, then if you happen to go over that, there's a tiered pricing model for additional characters each month. But basically, for under $100 a month, you can have a podcast that you can sell these sponsorships on. Okay, so I want to open it up at this time to any questions. Just drop them in the Q&A or the chat. I can see them both right here very easily. We have a question. Sorry, I missed this from Pamela. The articles are from a computer, correct? Right, that is correct. What happens when it comes to difficult names? Yes, example, our mayor's last name is Darty, which I probably got wrong. So this is a very good point. There are some transcription issues that we've seen. And so that's why we are taking this tool in-house. There are transcription tools out there that are just kind of plug and play, and you can't really make these corrections. but that's what we're doing with the system. We're building a whole database so that on the publisher level, they can make corrections and adjust the pronunciation or whatever they want to correct it for their local publication. But then there's also global settings so that corrections can be made to just very common words that are maybe by chance pronounced wrong. But that doesn't happen a lot. It's mainly with names, exactly as you suggested. So that's a key thing that we didn't always have. We were using a tool that, again, was kind of just like a plug-in on WordPress, but now we're breaking that apart and kind of rebuilding the engine so that we can make those corrections. That's a great question. Go ahead and drop any other questions that you have, and I'll check in before we close the webinar. But I just wanted to give you a quick heads up. Another thing that we do at our hometown is host a lot of virtual conferences. And we recently developed a partnership with Kevin Slimp, the news guru. And I don't know if Kevin actually was a guest at Illinois Press ever, but I saw him at tons of state association conferences and the National Newspaper Association. So a lot of people know about Kevin. We have a whole series of events that are coming up. We do a monthly event with Kevin. And for the next 6 months, we have him booked up to do these events for our customers. So our hometown customer gets a free ticket to these events. It usually costs $89 per seat. If you're a customer with us, you can get unlimited seats for your staff. We've got one coming up on Friday at 11, which is advanced Photoshop. And then he's going to do he doesn't just do Adobe training. He also just does, kind of like newspaper focused trainings, tools and ideas on how to make your grad section easier. Just great tools for saving time on layout, increasing revenue with more effective ads and things like that. So we are actually opening.
All right. So that is today's live stream for Facebook, YouTube. We're on Periscope. I hope you enjoyed the show. That was just a replay, again, from last week's webinar with the Illinois Press Association, which we have an ongoing webinar series with them. And really happy to be associated with that organization and many other state associations that are shifting to these regular virtual webinars. I think it's a great way to get information out there in a very effective way, much more cost effective than traveling for these conferences every year. And so that's all that we've got for you today. I just wanted to, again, plug the webinar that's going to be coming up today with America's Newspapers and the Iowa Newspaper Association, their online media campus, which is a fantastic resource for the members of the Iowa Press Association. And we're going to be giving a very similar presentation on automated podcasting. So if you liked what you saw here, please tune in there. There's going to be some updates to the slides, and it'll also give you the opportunity to ask questions in real time. So look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you very much again for tuning in. And I just wanted to plug one more time. If you're at all interested in our hometown and you're a news publisher, please contact us at our-hometown.com/contact us, and we will happily set up a free prototype on our WordPress platform. You send us your print edition, the PDF, and we will extract all the stories and make it an actual functional website for you in a matter of days. So again, thank you all very much for tuning in. I'll leave this up here for a few minutes so that you can get this link, but that's all we got. So we'll see you hopefully at 2 o'clock Eastern today. Thanks.